The reason your manifestations are not working is not because you are unworthy, unlucky, or spiritually behind. The reason you're not manifesting what you want is you. Something you are doing right now. Something that feels completely normal. Something that probably feels like thinking or caring or being realistic is actively canceling everything you are trying to create, and you have no idea it is happening. That is the part that stings, because you are trying, you are doing the work, you are saying the words, holding the vision, believing on the good days, and still nothing happens. The money does not come, the relationship does not arrive, the door does not open, and you start wondering if any of this is even real, if maybe you are the one person this just does not work for. The reason is that you are making a specific set of mistakes that are so subtle, so woven into how you normally think and feel, that you have never been able to see them clearly, until today. Because by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly what you are doing wrong, exactly why it is blocking you, and exactly what to do instead. If you stay to the end, I'll give you the real mechanism, the thing nobody talks about directly enough. Pay attention, because the first thing I am about to show you is going to feel uncomfortably familiar. Think about the last time you set a real intention. You wanted something badly. You felt it, visualized it, declared it. And then what happened over the next few days? Be honest. You started thinking about it constantly, not in a calm, confident way, in a checking way. You scanned your life for signs that it was coming. You analyzed every small event for hidden meaning. You woke up some mornings feeling certain, and went to bed other nights feeling like a fool for believing. You told yourself to trust and then spent the next hour calculating how it could possibly happen given your current circumstances. You tried to feel gratitude, and instead felt a low hum of anxiety underneath it. You asked again, just to make sure the universe heard you the first time, and then you asked again after that. That cycle, that exhausting, invisible, relentless cycle, that is the mechanism of your own interference. And almost every person who struggles with manifestation is running it on repeat without ever recognizing what it actually is. Here is the first thing you need to understand. The universe does not respond to your requests. It responds to your state, not the state you are in during your morning practice, not the state you are in during the 10 minutes you spend visualizing, the state you carry for the other 23 hours and 50 minutes of the day, the baseline emotional frequency running underneath all your conscious intentions. That frequency is the real signal. And right now, for most people, that signal is saying something very different from what their intentions are saying. You say you want abundance, but your baseline state carries the weight of financial anxiety. You say you want love, but your baseline state holds the quiet ache of feeling fundamentally unchosen. You say you trust the process, but your baseline state is running a low-level emergency broadcast about why this is probably not going to work out. You have two signals going out simultaneously, a conscious one and a subconscious one. And the subconscious one is louder. It is always louder, because it is not something you choose for 10 minutes. It is something you have been rehearsing for years. This is the internal contradiction that is silently dismantling your manifestations. You are asking for one thing and broadcasting another. The asking happens in moments. The broadcasting happens continuously. And continuity always wins. There is something else nobody warns you about. The interference does not always feel like doubt. Sometimes it feels like logic. You think you are being practical when you are actually being limiting. You tell yourself you are just being realistic when you are actually reinforcing the old signal. The mind is very good at disguising fear as reason. It wraps your lowest beliefs in the language of common sense and presents them to you as wisdom. And because they sound wise, you accept them. You repeat them to others. You build your decisions around them. They keep producing the same results that prove them right. Not because they are true, because you keep treating them as true. This is the loop. The belief produces the state produces the signal produces the circumstances confirm the belief, round and round, for years, for some people, for decades. The loop does not break because of more effort. It does not break because you want the thing badly enough. It breaks when you stop feeding the belief at the center of it. When you look at the belief directly and ask, is this actually true, or is this just familiar? Is this a fact about reality? Or is this just a story I have been rehearsing so long it feels like reality? That question, asked honestly, is the beginning of the real shift. Now, before you think the solution is just to feel better, you need to understand this. There is a deeper layer here, one that most people in this space never reach. And it is the layer that actually explains why simply trying to feel more positive does not fix the problem. Here is what almost no one tells you. You cannot think your way into a new frequency. You cannot force a feeling into existence by deciding to have it. If you could, you would have done it already. The reason positive thinking alone does not work is that the frequency you are broadcasting is not coming from your conscious thoughts. It is coming from your identity. From the story at the very center of you about what you deserve, what is possible for you, and what the universe is likely to do with someone like you. And that story does not update just because you decide to feel better. It updates when the evidence inside you changes, when the relationship between you and the desire shifts at a level deeper than thought. This is where the real block lives, in the identity underneath the effort. And until you address that, every technique you try is building on a cracked foundation. Let me show you what this actually looks like. When you set an intention and immediately start wondering whether it will work, that wondering is not neutral curiosity. It is your identity sending the universe an update that says, I asked, but I do not actually expect to receive. When you check for results compulsively, that checking is not enthusiasm. It is distrust. It is your deeper self broadcasting. I do not believe this is already in motion without my surveillance. When you feel desperate about the thing you want, that desperation does not come from wanting it badly. It comes from a belief that it is scarce, that it might not come, that you might be the exception. Desperation is lack wearing the costume of desire. Every single one of those states, the wondering, the checking, the desperation, the inconsistency, sends a signal to the field that is more powerful than any affirmation you could speak. Because those states are not performed. They are genuine. They are what you actually believe at the level that matters. And the universe, which is not judging you, which has no agenda about your life, simply responds to genuine signal. It gives you more of what you are genuinely broadcasting. The person who says they want abundance but broadcasts scarcity keeps receiving circumstances that produce the feeling of scarcity. The cycle feeds itself. And the only exit is not positive thinking. It is signal correction. Here is the moment everything connects. The reason your manifestations are not arriving is not that the universe did not hear you. It is that what you are broadcasting between your intentions is louder than the intentions themselves. You are asking with your words and canceling with your state. You are opening the door with your vision and closing it with your doubt. You are planting the seed and then digging it up every morning to check if it has sprouted. The request was received. The delivery is being disrupted by you, invisibly, continuously. Now I need you to really sit with that, because this is not blame. This is not a verdict on your character or your spiritual capacity. This is a technical explanation of why a specific pattern produces a specific result. And if you understand it technically, you can change it technically. That is what makes this useful. So now the real question. How do you actually fix this? How do you correct a signal you cannot fully see? How do you change a state that is running underneath your conscious awareness, driven by years of accumulated belief and experience? The answer is not what most people expect. It is simpler than most people think, and it requires something most people are not willing to do consistently enough to see it work. The first change is clarity. Not clarity about what you want. Most people have some version of that. Clarity about why you believe you do not already have it. That is the question most people avoid because the honest answer is uncomfortable. If you want financial abundance and you do not have it, there is a belief somewhere in you that explains the gap. It might say, people like me do not end up wealthy. It might say, money always runs out. It might say, wanting too much is dangerous. Whatever your version is, it is there and it is operating. You cannot correct a signal you refuse to look at. So the first step is to sit quietly. Ask yourself what you actually believe about this desire at your deepest level, and listen to the answer without immediately trying to fix it. Just see it clearly, because you cannot work with what you cannot name. The second change is emotional consistency, not performed happiness, not forced positivity. Genuine, practiced, sustained alignment between what you are asking for and how you feel in the ordinary moments of your day. This is the part people resist because it sounds like too much work. But here is the practical reality. You do not need to feel certain all day. You just need to interrupt the pattern of defaulting back to the frequency of lack when nothing is consciously directing your attention. That means catching yourself in the moment you start scanning for evidence that it is not coming. Catching yourself in the moment the anxiety hum starts up about whether this will work, not to push it down. To acknowledge it, name it as the old signal, and consciously redirect to openness, to honest neutrality at minimum. Neutrality is a dramatically different signal from dread. You do not need to leap from fear to faith in one moment. You just need to stop feeding the fear. Let me go deeper into what emotional consistency actually looks like in practice, because most people hear that phrase and think it means walking around in a constant state of forced positivity. It does not mean that. Emotional consistency means that your dominant emotional relationship to the desire is one of openness rather than grasping, expectation rather than desperation, quiet knowing rather than anxious hoping. You do not need to feel ecstatic about it every day. You just need the underlying current to be one that says, this or something better is already in motion, and I am available to receive it. That is a genuine orientation, an honest internal posture toward the thing you are calling in, a real shift in how you hold the desire in your body every day. And here is what that actually requires. It requires you to stop using the absence of the thing as evidence that it is not coming. Every single day that your desire has not yet physically arrived, you have a choice. You can interpret that absence as confirmation that it is not working, which sends the signal of doubt. Or you can interpret it as simply the time required for physical reality to catch up with the signal you are now broadcasting, which sends the signal of trust. Both interpretations are available to you every day. The one you choose is the one that shapes the frequency. The frequency shapes the outcome. You are choosing your results one interpretation at a time, and most people are not aware they are choosing at all. The third change is detachment from the timeline. This is the one that breaks most people because it requires something counterintuitive. It requires you to genuinely stop needing the thing to arrive on your schedule in order to feel okay, not to stop wanting it, not to stop working toward it, but to stop making your emotional state contingent on its arrival. Here is why this matters at a signal level. When your well-being is dependent on the thing coming, every moment it has not yet arrived is a moment of emotional deficit. That deficit is a broadcast. It says, I am in a state of lack right now, and I will remain there until the universe corrects my circumstances. That is the opposite of the signal you need to send. The signal you need to send is, I am already whole. This desire is something I am calling in from completeness, not desperation. I do not need it to survive. I choose it because it aligns with who I am becoming. That shift from need to choice, from desperation to preference, changes the quality of the signal entirely. The fourth change is the most practical one. Stop checking. Every time you check for results, you are broadcasting doubt. You are essentially asking the universe to prove itself to you, which communicates that you do not trust the process is already in motion. Think about what it would feel like if you had ordered something you knew beyond any doubt was on its way. You would not constantly refresh the tracking page with anxiety. You would not lie awake wondering if the delivery system was real. You would simply go about your life knowing it was coming. That is the state. The grounded, calm certainty of someone who has placed an order they trust and is now free to focus on everything else. When you can hold that state genuinely, the interference stops. And when the interference stops, the path clears. One more thing about the checking behavior, because I want you to really understand what is happening when you do it. Every time you check for results compulsively, you are drawing your attention back into the physical absence of the thing. You are anchoring yourself in the current reality, rather than in the reality you are creating. Where your attention goes, your signal goes. Let us talk about something that nobody addresses when they teach manifestation. The role of your past. Most people carry the emotional residue of every time something did not work out. Every disappointment, every time they believed and it did not happen, every time they trusted and felt foolish afterward. That residue does not stay in the past. It lives in the body, it lives in the nervous system, and it shows up as a preemptive protection, a part of you that has learned, through real experience, not to get its hopes too high. That part is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to protect you from the pain of disappointment again. But in doing so, it keeps you in a posture of emotional guardedness toward the very thing you are trying to receive. And you cannot receive with your guard up. You cannot open to something you are simultaneously bracing against. Healing that pattern is not about pretending the past did not happen. It is about making a new decision in the present. The decision that this moment is not that moment. That this desire is not the ones that did not come. That the frequency you are operating from now is not the same frequency that produced the old disappointments, because you are no longer operating from the same story. That is the genuine release of the past, not forgetting it, not overriding it with forced positivity, but recognizing clearly that what you are creating now is being created from a different internal place, and that difference is everything. There is also the matter of resistance. Resistance is what happens when you say you want something, and some part of you also wants to stay exactly where you are, not because you love where you are, But because where you are is known, it is mapped. You understand how to survive here. The life on the other side of your desire is unmapped territory. And the brain treats unmapped territory as threat until it has enough information to classify it as safe. So while you are consciously pulling toward the desire, part of your nervous system is simultaneously pulling back from the unfamiliarity of having it. You are accelerating and braking at the same time. The progress stalls. You wonder why you feel so conflicted about the thing you claim to want so badly. This is why. The desire is real. The resistance is equally real. And until you address both, they cancel each other out. The way through resistance is not to force it away. It is to get specific about what you are actually afraid will happen if the desire arrives. What changes? What familiar thing do you lose? What story ends? Because there is always a story that ends when a life transforms. Sometimes it is the story of being someone who tries and suffers, which has its own identity payoff. Sometimes it is the story of having people to blame for your limitations. Sometimes it is simply the story of the life you know, which even when painful is at least predictable. Whatever your version of that ending is, it needs to be seen clearly and consciously released, because the universe cannot deliver what you are unconsciously holding a door against. You have to be genuinely, fully available to receive, not just willing in theory, available in your actual state. Now I want to reframe everything you just heard, because if any part of you is sitting with the weight of this, feeling like you have been unknowingly sabotaging yourself for years, and that is somehow your fault, I need to redirect that. What you have been doing is not failure. It is what everyone does until they understand the mechanism. It is what happens when you are trying to use a system without a manual. You were told to believe and visualize and trust without anyone explaining the signal layer underneath all of it. Without anyone telling you that the state you live in between your practices is more powerful than the practices themselves. Now you have the manual. That changes everything. You have been an incredibly effective broadcaster of limitation, of doubt, of scarcity, and of the specific emotional patterns that keep producing the results you do not want. Which means the same capacity that has been working against you is entirely capable of working for you. You do not need to become a different person. You need to redirect the energy you already have toward clarity, toward consistency, toward the genuine, quiet certainty that what you have asked for is already in motion, and that your only job now is to stop getting in the way. The universe has not been withholding from you. It has been responding to you perfectly, accurately, every single time. The circumstances in your life right now are not a judgment. They are a reflection. They are the physical form of the signal you have been broadcasting most consistently. And if that is true, then changing the signal changes the reflection. Not instantly, not magically, but inevitably. The way a river changes course when the ground underneath it shifts. Slowly at first, then completely. You have been asking the right questions. You have been wanting real things. You have been putting in real effort. The only thing that was missing was the understanding of what the universe is actually listening to. Now you have it. The question is whether you will do something with it, or let it become another piece of information that lands and changes nothing. The thing you want is not far away. It is not being kept from you by forces beyond your reach. It is waiting at the exact frequency you will broadcast the moment you finally stop being afraid it will not come. Until next time.